Hey kindergarten, it's Mrs. Van Veldhuizen, and I am here to read to you the story that we're going to share together today. But before we begin, I was hoping that you could stop what you're doing, stand up where you are, and can you please act like a rabbit? Good job. Now, can you act like a turtle? So who can tell me? Are rabbits fast or are rabbits slow? That's right, they're fast. And are turtles fast or are they slow? Good. The turtle is slow. Well, today's story is titled The Tortoise and the Hare. And I bet a lot of you have heard this story before. And if you have, you already know, but tortoise is another name for a type of animal like a turtle, and it's very slow. And hare is another name for an animal like a rabbit, and hares are very fast. So we're going to be reading this story together today. So I'm going to show you the picture. And while you're looking at this picture, I want you to take note of the hare and the tortoise. And while you're looking at them, I want you to think about what you think they may be doing in this picture. Well, I can tell from this picture that it looks like these animals are lined up for a race. Now, which of these animals do you think would win a race? Well, I guess I'm predicting that the hare will win the race because I know that hares are much faster than tortoises. But I guess we'll have to read to find out. So buckle your story belts and join me as we read The Tortoise and the Hare. Once upon a time, all the forest animals lived happily. Each one did something well and was proud of what it did. Bird built strong nests. Duck was the best swimmer. Chipmunk found acorns better than anyone. And Hare? Well, Hare bragged more than anyone. Actually, he made a nuisance of himself with his bragging. He thought he was the best at everything. Now, Hare was quite a bragger. I don't think I would like him very much. Would you? Why not? One fine spring day, Hare challenged his friends to a race. Oh, come now, he bragged. Surely someone will race. Of course I'll win because hares run faster than anyone, and I am the fastest of all the hares. Tired of Hare's bragging, the animals didn't answer. Besides, they did believe he was the fastest runner, so they all ignored him. Everyone, that is, but Tortoise. I'll race you, Hare, said Tortoise, but you have to promise something. If I win, you must stop bothering us with your bragging. We're tired of hearing over and over again how great you are. Hare thought for a moment. This was a promise he was sure he could make. He'd never have to stop bragging because he couldn't lose a race against a tortoise, the slowest of animals. Indeed, you have my promise, friend, said Hare. Shall we race on Saturday, then? Saturday it is, said Tortoise. We'll race around the pond. And he walked back to his house. Plop, plop, plop. Now, boys and girls, I want you to take a moment to think about the setting. What would it be like to see a tortoise and a hare race around a pond with all the other forest animals looking on? Hare, on the other hand, ran away laughing. A race with the tortoise, he said. What fun! I shall win easily. All week the forest animals worried. Tortoise probably couldn't win the race against Hare, but they planned to cheer for him on race day anyway. Now, I think that the animals were really good friends to Tortoise. What do you think? How will that make Tortoise feel knowing that all his friends are there to cheer him on as he races? Tortoise got ready for the big race. Every day he ran or walked, ate good food, and rested. Hare, on the other hand, only did a little extra hopping, just for practice. Saturday finally came, and it was hot. Just in time, Tortoise walked up to the starting line, bobbing his head up and down as turtles do. Then Hare arrived, grinning and prancing and still bragging. "See you at the finish line, Tortoise," he said. "I'll be there first, of course." When both contestants were ready, Duck gave a starting quack, and the race was on. Hare ran off as fast as the wind. Tortoise walked slowly behind. Plop, plop, plop. The other animals were sure Tortoise couldn't win, but they kept cheering for him. Now, here's one way to guess what will happen. I know that hares are faster than tortoises, so I am guessing that Hare will win the race. What do you think? Let's find out if we're right. About halfway around the pond, Hare couldn't even see Tortoise behind him. "What fun," he puffed. "I'll stop at my house for a bit of lunch and still win this race." So he turned off the racetrack at his house to have a carrot and some lemonade. Then he took a little nap. "Only a minute or two," he said to himself as he dozed off. "Then I'll finish the race and I'll wait at the finish line." For Tortoise. Hare was really tired, probably from all his bragging, so he slept and slept and slept. Meanwhile, Tortoise kept walking at his slow but steady pace. Plop, plop, plop. The sun was hot, but he stopped for nothing. At long last, he crossed the finish line, and his friends cheered loudly. They gave him cups of cool water and lots of pats on his back. Tortoise had won the race. Everyone, except Tortoise, seemed surprised at that. Well, I was wrong, wasn't I? I predicted that Hare would win, but Tortoise won the race after all. Sometimes, boys and girls, we predict what we think will happen, but the author has a different idea, and that's okay. The sound of the loud cheering woke Hare. He looked out his door toward the racetrack. "No, no, no," he said, stomping his little rabbit feet in anger. "How could this happen?" But indeed it had. Foolish Hare had lost the race, and because of the promise he made, he could no longer brag. But because he no longer bragged, Hare became a much better friend and a lot more fun to be with. Tortoise taught everyone a good lesson that day. He showed that if you work slowly and steadily at something you want to do, no matter what anyone else thinks, you'll eventually do it. Now, boys and girls, sometimes great stories have great morals. A moral is a lesson that teaches us something. Can you say in your own words what the moral or the lesson was of this story? Now, do you think that Hare was a good neighbor before the race? Why or why not? Now, Hare promised Tortoise he wouldn't brag anymore if he lost the race. Do you think he will keep his promise? I hope so. How did Tortoise win the race even though he was so slow? And lastly, boys and girls, just to review, what lesson did Tortoise teach? And what lesson did Hare learn? Do you think he'll be a better neighbor after the race? So on your practice book pages to go along with the story, The Tortoise and the Hare, you get to do a lot of different things today. On page 263, problem 1, you're going to circle the pictures that show who the story was about. A giraffe, a hare, a tortoise, a sleeping boy, or a little girl. You decide. In problem number 2, you are going to color the picture that shows the setting of the story. That means where the story took place. And then on the back side, on page 264, in problem number 1, you get to pick one of the characters if you were going to write your own story. Would you want your story to be about a ballerina, about a frog, ribbit, ribbit, a cowboy, a spider, or a fish? So you get to color the one character you'd want your story to be about. And then in box number 2, you are going to draw your own picture of this character racing against Hare and what that story might look like. Can't wait to see what you do. Bye, guys.